another try. So the subject I was talking about was smaller boards, smaller boards, and also a horde increase. Points increased on hordes. I think you are going to see. I think you're also going to see that in Age of Sigmar, and I don't mean this week, but I reckon the new GHB will be a good example of where they might be taking it. If you look at what they've done already, I'll wait for everyone to get back in the room, and I'll tell you all that right now I'm painting up a Lord of Change, and he's way too colourful. He's very jazzy, but you guys can't see it because I've actually painted it in a colour that the green screen, which is quite cool effect. So anyway, I'll just wait for everyone to be back in the room. I'm really looking forward to painting up this Lord Change, because, well, not because he's good necessarily. I actually slowly have started to not rate the Lord Change. It doesn't have the output that I would want, to be honest, for a model of his size and points cost, and doesn't bring enough utility to an army. Unlike Croak, he's more expensive than Croak and way worse than Croak. Okay, hello back. So I might see minimum table size change in GHB. So that's what we're talking about. Minimum table size in GHB, yes, and all of the events which are pro Games Workshop, and what I mean by that is they're affiliated in some way or have some sort of deal with Games Workshop. So that would be like for Age of Sigmar, Adepticon, LVO. Obviously, we've already talked about that. So those guys, Nova, obviously, I imagine you'll see Blood and Glory, the Warhammer World events also take up. They're the affiliated events as I see them at the minute. And we are back. I saw the pictures. Your Lord of Change looks wicked. Thanks, Warmaster, but I don't think it's that good. Oh, perfect. My guest is here. Ready. Let me just get my guest in because he's a legend. Some people will call him. This is podcast guys. Like, I'd really like you to drop me a message and just be like, do you know what, Rob? This really annoys me when you do this. Or just, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. And just chat to me. Drop me some messages. Afternoon Forex TV. Hi, Dydrin. Hello, Nick Pert. Let me just make it so that people can see and hear you. Nick Pert. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello, yes, I can hear you. Can you read me? Do you read?
Yeah, read over. We are in over. Radio check. So, Nick, I don't want to throw you in the deep end, but we're in the middle of something. How are you, very quickly?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, good, thank you very much. Just played a really fun game of Age of Sigmar. I enjoyed
Nice.
that.
Did you win?
I did win. I think it was very close still, though. It was against some squigs, so I think unfortunately, like the army book that I had was way stronger. But it was a really good game, really fun. Marauders, man, which kind of brings us on to what we were talking about is the smaller board sizes in 40k. We're quickly talking about that in 40k and how it might apply to Age of Sigmar. But what do you think about? I haven't actually got your feedback yet. What do you actually think about it?
Well, we talked a little bit about it last week. I think I quite enjoy having a large board space because it allows a lot more maneuvering.
Yeah.
It makes your deployment more meaningful as long as you don't have like ludicrously fast units that can redeploy wherever they want and go a million inches a turn. But what I don't want it to be is just because the criticism that Age of Sigmar had right at the start was it was just a big mash in the middle, wasn't it?
Yep.
Just a big clusterfuck of things in the middle of the board smashing into each other. What I don't want the smaller board size to do is to just make that a thing, that it's just a mess of models and a small amount of board. Although they did say they're going to try and make, well, I think the impression is that they're going to try and make armies more elite. So you'll have less hordes on the table, so it might not necessarily be that way. It might also make, but then again, it might also make horde armies better because you can. There's a smaller board area, you can zone out things more. Because I think obviously there's the generic
Deep strike,
sort of like reserves mechanic, Whereas a smaller board says more models makes it easier to screen out the entire board, so that could be a benefit. But I don't know. I don't know fully how I feel about it until I actually give it a go. But
I guess
yeah.
well, so I guess like there's a load of ways to unpack it, and I'd like to unpack it a little bit because it's massive. Like it's not like people are like being fairly flippant about it, and I don't mean it's massive like the sky is falling. I mean it's huge in the consideration to think about, right? Like number one, it's a change of the board space we've been playing on for a very long time.
Yeah.
Quite a big deal. Yeah, I mean that's really big. And that's going to affect people. It's going to affect people with the mats that they have, with the boards they have at home, and all those other elements, which I think is in some ways quite a negative, negative fact. Like it's not positive for some people. People who have. So was a monkey. Why is everyone going crazy over board size? Okay, so I for one only play tournament Warhammer. I don't play any sort of narrative Warhammer, right? So if all of the tournaments, which all of the major tournaments have already agreed that they're going to play on, they've made a statement that all their events are going to be the minimum board size. So the idea that you can just stick with 6x4 is disingenuous because you won't be playing on the board size that everyone else is playing on, well, at least at the tournament level. So Nick, like every tournament, like so Warhammer World says it's going to be whatever the new size is, 60x44.
Yeah.
Adepticon, let's say London GT, let's just pick those out of the hat. What are you going to do at home?
Well, if you're going to go to those tournaments, you're going to practice on that board size, aren't you? What's the point?
Are you even going to even play casual games on any other board size?
Well, it depends what type of casual game. If it's just like a fun, you might play on an 8x4 sometimes just to have more toys on the table. But yeah, if it's like a standard match play pickup game, if all the big tournaments are going towards that. Although it's not explicitly this is the standard that everyone should be playing to, or the board size, then pretty much everyone is going to follow that. If the big tournaments are going that way and setting that example, pretty much everyone else is going to follow. So you may as well be practicing on that table size.
Yeah.
It will become the new standard, whatever, even if it's not explicitly said.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, absolutely. Zango Jack makes the point in the chat, which I agree with. He says 5x4 is really not that much easier to get into a house than 6x4.
No. It's not monumentally smaller.
No. But you do lose about 25% of the board space.
Oh, really?
That's the maths on it. So it's a significant space of board. So I think that's the thing. So number one, it will be the standard. Just because they say minimum is their cowardly way of getting out of it, which I always disrespect. Just own it and tell us why. Number two, again, these aren't negatives, these are just facts. Hey, Jack Baker, you babe. The other thing to talk about is we're playing a war game, right? Maneuverability is a key tenet of war, right? But for me, and that maneuverability has always been very, very important. Like moving your models around, controlling the board space. Like me and Pete had a really fun game today where we didn't really engage in combat until turn 2. A lot of it was just jockeying for position, But I guess we got to ask ourselves: is Warhammer really even a war game? It's a tabletop game, definitely. It's got miniatures, definitely. You're kind of having a battle, yes. But is it it's a long way away from trying to simulate war, isn't it? Would we say, or do you think that's disingenuous?
Well, I guess what scale? Because it's not necessarily emulating war, is it? You'd play more epic style games for that. Mm-hmm. It's more it's zooming in on one small, tiny aspect of that battle. And I'd say it's probably new 40k is going to be very more similar to what Kill Team did. In Kill Team, you start almost right on top of each other, so you could be in combat turn 1, and I imagine this is what it's going to be like. There's going to be the combat threat almost straight away with the smaller board.
Yes, well, and I agree with you. That mosh pit in the middle mentality is very much going to be, I think, an element of the game. And I think we're going to have to learn some valuable lessons about how we... Now, apparently the terrain is going to be more of a big deal. The maps are going to be more of a big deal. But like, there's what they plan and what they intend. What they intend and what's going to happen, I think, are the really big elements for this, to be a part of this conversation. The other thing, though, is with the increase, as we saw for Cultists, I think we're going to see hordes cut in half, Nick. Like, I think we're going to see hordes either pointed out so harshly that they're not effective,
just blasted straight out of the water.
Yeah, like I feel like intercessors.
The new blast weapons.
Yeah, just bam. But yeah, just I don't think even the blast weapons are going to be the element that I think they intend to. I just think it's going to be a points hike on all hordes. They're just going to be like, this can't be viable. In which case, the thing that I'm interested in is how that's going to affect Age of Sigmar as well. Because I mean, like if you look at 40k, has it been fairly elite for a long time? Hordes are quite rare. Generally talking, Knights were a big thing for a while. Eldar, obviously a big thing. Drukhari, they didn't run any hordes. Chaos Knights, no. I mean, you tended to see it more in Chaos, right? Plague Bearers, Bloodletters, Cultists, Brimstones back in the day. Obviously, you've got Orc Boys, different element. Necrons didn't matter.
Nice. But I think hordes were always quite important for the meta, in my opinion, because you always had to go to a tournament and think, if I come up against a horde, can I deal with it? Or if I come up against elite armies, can I deal with that? So you kind of had to think about that. Whereas if hordes aren't now, what's that going to do to all the armies? You're not going to have to worry about clearing hordes. It's just going to be like, well, I need lots of anti-elite.
Yeah, anti-tank, anti-elite,
and things like that. So maybe my plasma gun marines are going to be amazing again, because they're great at killing Primaris and things like that.
Yes.
So that could be a thing.
I think there'll be no hordes. I think it's going to be all elites, and I think the armies that work off having those horde units available to them might be affected quite. Because it's really interesting. Like if you look at pound for pound, if you look at Orc Boys versus Mega Knobs just are awful, all day long, every day. Yeah. Well, that's what I think anyway. Some people don't agree.
At the current points, probably yes.
Yeah, so, like, what are you going to... hopefully, they'll reduce down some of the nowhere near as good units, because, like, everything is not created equal. Again, looking at the Orc vehicles, which suck, talking about all of the trucks, basically, any of those things, compare them to any of the Marine tanks. It would make sense that Marine tanks are better. Don't get me wrong, but I want to get at least as many shitty Orc vehicles as I do for Orc tank, like for Space Marine tanks, and that's not going to be the case. So, like, the armies that are shitty, but they have a lot of good shitty stuff. Is that the best way of describing it? Right, anyway, I'd like to bring up any points you guys have got in the chat if you want to say something about it. The other thing I was thinking about is how this is obviously going to affect Age of Sigmar, because there's no way they're going to run... Like, also, you can't cut up your battle mat. If you play Age of Sigmar on 40k, you're like, well, no, I'm keeping it as... I'm taping it off. That'll look ugly. Who wants to just have a long roll of tape, right? Who wants that? That sucks.
Yeah, if you're a buy gamer, it's a difficult decision what to do with your mat. Do you buy just a second one, a smaller one, or do you tape it off and take it off every time you want to switch systems? Like,
also,
or is this an opportunity for someone to create a product that they'll sell?
Yes.
Like a mat that you lay on your mat, like a black border that you roll out and put on your mat to convert it to 40k.
Well, let's talk about who's making the money, right? Because someone is going to start making whatever exactly the dimensions these mats are, and they're going to make a fucking killing, right? Mm. And whoever does it might have known about this plan for X.
Yeah, maybe like some sort of playtesting team. Probably someone who already is making mats already, is already in Games Workshop's back pocket already.
Yeah, so well, it's either gonna be people who already make mats, or it's gonna be Games Workshop going to bring out their own new mats, right? Those are the two options that we're going to see, and Yes, maybe that's it. Maybe that is the whole point that Rail's talking about on YouTube. He's like, just don't play both game systems, Nick. Only pick one. Pick a side, yeah? Pick a side. Don't you dare do two things at once. Anyway.
I like sitting on the fence. It's comfy.
It's the safest place to be. That's what.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So someone is making bank off this decision. So the arguments I've seen for the decision, I'd just like to state first off that I actually think it's a better. I think it's, if you were to ask me in a vacuum of the decision only itself, what do you think about playing on smaller boards? I'd say. Sorry, I sneezed.
You say sneeze. That's a confusing opinion, Rob.
That's a
I don't quite know how to
message.
translate that opinion.
I'd say that it's good, and my arguments for that are
What the pros? Yeah.
the pros is that movement in 40k is already ludicrous. You've got units that can go either, like we did a show on this, didn't we? Units either go up to about 12 inches, which is slow,
Yeah.
or 48 inches. Like those
Yeah.
two, and they can either shoot 120 inches or 80 inches or 64 inches, or they can shoot like 24. So, I think movement's a little bit redundant in 40k anyway. Truthfully, so I think that the smaller board won't really change that in 40k. If anything, it means you can box in those faster armies, which is good. So I'm happy with that, and I think ultimately it would mean that units engage a little bit more. It might be better for combat. I feel comfortable about that too. So I think in a vacuum, I like the decision. In a vacuum, but there's all the knock-on effects, and I quite like the idea of a horde of Orc boys. I don't care that someone thinks it's slow to play. I don't want to play a game where it's only Imperial Knights versus just Space Marines. That suck.
Nah.
Do you know what I mean? Plus, I like dudes. I like dudes being on the ground. Just dudes fucking stuff up. Just bam, 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 bam. What do you think about the decision in its own bubble? Do you see the pros?
Well, I guess we kind of need to see. I want to see all the terrain rules, but we kind of know a little bit about what they do. They block in line of sight. So a smaller board and then blocking line of sight is going to give combat armies a big advantage. So making the board smaller might make shooting better without the terrain blocking line of sight. But with the terrain blocking line of sight, then that sort of counteracts that problem, I think. I do quite like the idea that as soon as the game starts, you're in trouble. Kind of like I said with Kill Team. As soon as the game starts, you're in the shit if you're not deployed correctly, because you can be in combat straight away. So your deployment is going to be a bit more important. But I think I said a couple of weeks ago, one of the shows, one of my favourite games of 40k I had was both me and my opponent both had lots of deep striking stuff. So it was like we were both trying to screen each other out, both dropping stuff in. So the action happened more spread out over the course of the game. And I think the smaller board and the new reserve mechanic is going to make more games like that. So it might not necessarily be front loaded to the earlier turns, because you'll have reserves coming in later on, like maybe turn 3, 4, maybe 5, I don't know. So hopefully, the game action is spread out. It's in a smaller area, but not all of your army is going to be necessarily on the board all the time, because I think there's going to be incentives to keep stuff off, because you don't want to get it shot off straight away.
Dave Fraser drop deep strike distance to 7 inches. I think that's probably true. I think probably drop deep strike into 3 inches, make the board 2x2, and then just no units above 5 models. Just that's 40k of the future. I think one of the interesting elements is their insistence, or Games Workshop's insistence, that they want to speed up the game. But I would argue that the speed of the game is not because of the wound output. It's got a lot to do with how much dice rolling we do that's ineffective.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's not the fact that 10 guardsmen exist is a problem. It's the fact that 10 guardsmen can put out 40 shots, maybe.
Yeah, your 40
in,
shot, your reroll and your hits. Yeah.
like that's the
Yeah.
issue. That's where
So
you.
I played a new war game recently with my friend Matt. Um, it's I think it's a Warlords game based on Bolt Action, but it's fantasy. And essentially, my unit rolls to hit once. So an interaction. If I've charged your unit in combat, I roll to hit once, and that's it. And then you roll saves, and that's it. And it was really, really quick and slick game. But when you're comparing that to like 40k, like you're hitting, you're rerolling your hits, you're wounding, you're rerolling your wounds, you're saving, you're rerolling your saves, you're doing DPR saves. There's a lot of dice rolls that go into one interaction between units.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you say, I agree. I think that's mainly where the game is slowed down rather than
having
necessarily
10 dudes.
the number of models. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've played Horde games, and some people, I've played against people with loads of orcs, and they can be very slow. But also I've played with orcs, and I've not been the quickest at times, but you find ways of playing quicker. But I know that's not necessarily, that's in general, hordes are much slower, so I can see why they would want to maybe cut that down a little bit.
Yeah, I think Rail says, I do not think a 6x4 can be exclusive. It's pretty massive. By being smaller, you don't horrify players that are thinking of getting into the game, as most people now. Yeah, so I think like ultimately, like I think it's a good decision for like the ecology of the game. Like for new people coming in, you're like, oh look, it's only on this small area. You're like, okay, that's good. I'm happy about that. Yes, Mandollies. Only got 5 minutes though. The AOS Realm Battle Blasted Halahar is battle map. Blasted Halahar is 45 inches by 67 inches, and the 40k Moonbase Classius is 5.5 foot by 3 foot 7 inches. Not sure how the new size is, perhaps something they plan to do, or could be like GHB 2019 terrain rules. Okay, yeah. Okay, so we talked about it in its own space. Also, big love to Mandollies there for giving us some info. We talked about we haven't talked about its effect on Age of Sigmar, because I think definitely Age of Sigmar, the next one, will have exactly the same board space, which will
probably
be
this time next year.
This time next year, yeah, more than likely, will be exactly the same thing, smaller board space. But the thing that scares me about Age of Sigmar, because when you talk 40k, you talk hordes, you think, you actually, it's quite rare you think hordes in 40k. Do you know what I mean? Tanks, spaceships, big demon princes, not so much hordes. But AOS, you're thinking not hordes, but you wouldn't be uncomfortable with 2 blocks of 40 dudes. You were like, that's pretty common. That's pretty common. And then it got me thinking about the releases as of late, the actual new model releases that they've done. And they've generally tended to vary onto the elite side.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got Mortek Guard, but Mortek Guard are still more elite than they're not. Like when you're talking new model releases.
What's their max unit size?
Mortek Guard?
Yeah.
40?
Oh, you can't go up to 40. I was just thinking like.
But currently points wise, it's a quarter of an army.
Right. Yeah.
So like that's quite expensive, and you rarely tend to see a big 40 block. But if you do, it's just one. Like, but that's a good argument that maybe I'm wrong in that situation. But the idea of them reducing the Age of Sigmar down to an elite game, again, I don't know if I quite like there just being crap on the table. Just some like 10 netters, or 20 shooter boys living their best life, 20 marauders just trying really hard, loads of skinks, obviously, like a couple of units of 40 skinks. So, hey, Gabe. So I think smaller boards for Age of Sigmar, I'm not against, but again, there's that movement conversation. But I definitely think I'm against less hordes, because again, I don't think it's the moving mechanic that's the issue. I think it's the in-game mechanics that are the issue. Now, what do you think about the change to Age of Sigmar? Like, if they changed it all up, would it bother you or not bother you?
I think it would probably bother me more than 40k, because I think Age of Sigmar is a little bit more about the movement than 40k, because there's less range, threat, and shooting.
Yes.
In Age of Sigmar, it's a little bit more about that jockeying for position than 40k.
Yeah, a lot less jockeying. I'd agree with that completely. So I'd love to know what everyone else in the chat thinks, because we're definitely going to see, like, just clip this right now. Age of Sigmar 3, same board size as 40k, and it's not the minimum. Stop saying the minimum. You've given them
Start
like
cutting your mats now.
And I feel sorry for all the gaming clubs who've like built like nice gaming tables, right?
Yeah.
What's doing today? Hobby, right? Yeah, I'm doing a bit of hobby, but you can't see my model because it's see-through on the green screen. But I'm painting up a lot of change, Nick. Nick, how's your Tzeentch army come in?
It's all green stuffed, but I've not painted it yet because I've not quite decided on my colour scheme yet.
Okay. Oh,
So-
what, is it all built and ready?
It's all built and ready to go. Yeah, it's just grey. I'm toying whether to match it to my current eyeball army, so just look like black and white, or paint it a completely new standalone army color scheme, like with like weird like rotting pale flesh and like really bloodshot eyes. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I really want to see that. Your eyeball army when it gets ready, super hype. I see what everyone's saying in the chat. Team and Cash, why cut the bats? They may update the rules again next edition or even sooner. I think that's a solid point.
Yeah.
I think what people should do is I'll say that later because it might be a good idea for Wallace.
I think
voting.
I think Dave Fraser's made a good point in the chat.
What is
If
it?
they mess around with Age of Sigmar, we'll just play the first age. That was the golden age of Sigmar, wasn't it?
Yeah, just the first age. What, points or no points?
Oh, at the point stage, yeah. So we're past the first, the Wild
The
West
Age of
stage.
Myth. Yeah, the Age of Myth.
Yeah, past that stage, right at the end of AOS 1. So we had points, good missions, no endless spells, good updates.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, no summoning. Like, you
Yeah,
had to pay for
yeah.
it. That was outrageous. Not looking forward to it if they make the board smaller, says Rob Wright. Already feels too small sometimes. I'd like to hear more about what he's got to say about that. Warmaster says just playing Gargants doesn't have to think about fits on the board, which I think is the point as well, right? Like, we could all play just Imperial Knights, but then the game is scaled up quite significantly then. The game is no longer like, it's getting close to, like, I guess they're all miniatures. I guess compared to a 9-foot Space Marine, the miniature Space Marine is quite miniature, but they get bigger. If the quantity of terrain is tweaked for AOS, then I'm happy. Otherwise, faction terrain may become even more difficult to place. That's true because some of the faction terrain, the OCR Bone Reaper is fucking massive. Have you seen the size of it?
Yeah. Yeah, and the new Lizardmen Temple thing, that's pretty massive.
That is massive too. Yeah, that's a good point. Like on smaller boards, that's going to be even, and also Sylvaneth are fucked even more. Interesting how it would impact some missions that have spread out objectives close to the board edge. Would it be drastic change to the objective game? Well, I think, just like you said, Nick, if we look at the battle plan that we looked at for 40k the other day, they're not central, they're quite equidistant, spread out to the corners-ish. But on a smaller board space, they are closer together.
Yeah.
Which means, like, there's more of that mosh pit in the middle mentality, which, I don't know. What do you think of that?
But what I hope is that the game works where it's like, okay, I'm going to have a third of my army in the early game, and then I'm going to have some of it in reserve to come in later, and then some of it in deep strike. So it's not just like 2,000 points, but go smash in the middle, and then it all peters out halfway through the game because I went second and my opponent just killed everything. If it's like a bit of a to and fro between our reserves and dropping in certain things at certain times, I think that would be way more interesting than just everything all in once in the middle. If it's if you're trading things and dropping stuff in the back, having to screen out here and there, I think that's way more interesting because then you are having to move around the board with stuff to block off certain board edges or areas of the board.
Yeah, and I guess also I sometimes think about deployment and when you're deploying the units, and sometimes you do end up deploying something quite wide on the flank because you don't really have any plans for it. Like, I know does that make sense? I know I should probably have a plan for absolutely everything, but especially I mean, some of those it'll massively affect some of those indirect fire units that we've seen, like Thunderfire cannons, whirlwinds. They're a little bit closer, not loads closer, but a little bit closer, which is a positive, I think.
Well, I don't know if because the Thunderfire cannon could basically reach anywhere on the board wherever it deployed, and I think with the smaller board size that it's just going to be able to hit whatever it wants now. So I think artillery pieces, particularly with what we've heard about the new terrain blocking line of sight, artillery pieces stock is just going to go even higher than it was before because they were already good, and I think they're just going to get better now. But because they're readdressing all the points, I imagine or would hope that they consider that and put the points of artillery units up more. Mainly the Thunderfire cannon. I don't think whirlwinds are that much of a problem because I don't think they're as oppressive as a Thunderfire cannon, because the Thunderfire cannon is really small and really reliable in its output, whereas a whirlwind isn't quite as reliable and as good as a Thunderfire, because Thunderfires hit on 2s rather than 3s, and they've got 4d3 shots rather than like 2d3 or 2d6. Yeah, so hopefully that gets addressed in the points, because Thunderfires were ludicrously cheap for their output.
Yes, hopefully the points is going to deal with a lot of issues, but if they haven't done that in the codexes, then and Games Workshop generally tends to err on the side of caution with points changes, obviously apart from what's just happened to Cultists. So I'm just going to read out what everyone's got to say in the chat. My question still stands: is it going to stay 6 inches away from an objective? Small boards. So we actually, in the 40k missions, we haven't seen how you score objectives.
No.
They haven't got that in the core missions. So what's interesting about that, Nick, is maybe that means that a tournament could change how you score objectives. It could be in the core rules. This is how you score an objective. It's done with number of bodies within 3 or 6 inches of an objective. You're like, fair enough. That's the core rule. It's never going to change. Maybe it's like this mission type it's always scored by boots on the ground, it's scored by bodies, and then maybe there's a tournament where it's done by vehicles, number of vehicles with an X. You could just change up the mission. You could change up the whole meta just in that, right?
Yeah, I imagine they'll have a generic way of scoring objectives in the core rules, but then, like you say, each individual mission might change those parameters. Like they'll have a special rule, because I always like there being a mission in the mission pack where there's one where characters score, kind of like the Places of Arcane Power, or there was a 40k one, I can't remember its name, where your characters had to get to the middle and score points. So I imagine there'll be a core mechanic for scoring objectives, but then each mission might have a special rule saying, ignore that rule, characters or tanks or whatever are the only ones that can score the objectives in that mission. Which I think is good, because it'll change what you need to have in your army to win across a tournament. If it's got 6 games, because you need to have you need to have good characters who can score in that particular mission, and enough troops to score in the other ones. Because I think one that we saw with the 4 pillars, that used to be troops only, but it didn't say troops anymore, did it? It's got rid of that.
It's got rid of that. So that's why I'm thinking there's going to be it's either going to be in the core rules or it's going to be a big change up, which I find really, honestly, quite interesting. Hey, Hook and Pin, Mondays do suck. War Machine, I suppose the current problem is that the current state most people have to theory out at the last 2 to 3 turns of the game, as they allocate 3 hours, the tournament has run out, partly due to deployment taking 30 to 35 minutes. So War Machine, I don't agree with that. Like, most games tend to finish when 2 players are working hard on getting it finished. But I do think that the game being faster would be good. I just don't think that I'd like to just take out the tactical element of the game, which I feel like movement and board space are the tactical element of the game. The rolling dice isn't the tactical part of the game.
No.
Like deciding I'm going to roll these.
Fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Loads of fun.
It's fun.
Fun as hell.
It's fun. So when I first started playing Warhammer, I had a mate called Loz. Whenever I'd roll shitty dice, he'd be like, just roll better. I practice at home. I just roll better. And I was like, fuck off. Because there's no maths to it, right? It's just, you're rolling what you roll. There's no skill to it. You're just rolling a dice. So rolling well, as much as it's a bit of a joke between us all, it's just roll better, get good, roll well. is actually disingenuous to be like if the game just becomes I roll my dice and you roll your dice, like what point is anything else in us doing, right? Like decisions, I'm hoping, is the key part.
Yeah.
I still think they missed a trick not going for alternating activations for shooting, etc. Couldn't agree more, says Rambo
Same.
Squirrel. DeBolt, what the hell? Thank you for donating some dollars to the show. DeBolt, thanks, man. Had to pause his Patreon because of COVID, and now he's back. Thanks, DeBolt. Makes me wonder what you do for work, though, DeBolt. Are you...
Graphic design, I think.
Oh, okay. I was like, it's something that he has to whore himself out for money. But deep peace and love to Bolt. That's great. Thanks. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I'll spend that on something incredibly boring, like the restream that we have to buy every month, which is super dull. You're an angel. I'm lost now. Nick, please save me. I don't know what to do after I get shy. Talk to me.
I've got lost as well.
Okay.
Big boards. No,
Big
dice.
boards.
We were talking about dice, weren't we? We were talking about dice, weren't we? So yeah. Dice are like one of my friends, Gozzy. Like I always nag him because he always has a go at his dice. I'm like, you can't control the dice. Don't blame the dice if it goes wrong. Like it's not their fault and it's not your fault. Like the dice are something you can't control, but you can control other things like your movement, when you do certain things, and where you place your models. So that's good players will control the dice in terms of like manage that probability and that risk, but they'll keep their eye on the things that you can control more, like your movement, when you do certain things, what you've got in your list, and stuff like that.
Yeah. I agree with you. I'd just like to read out Scott B's point because I think it's spot on. I think we could talk all day about the tactical acumen of what the new board space is going to be like, and that's important because the environment that we play in is worth the discussion here. Maybe the discussion of the reason needs to be no more than what Scott B says, which is ultimately it seems like a business decision. They have a bunch of Kill Team boards and presumably a new range of mats or boards ready to go, while squeezing out unapproved third-party suppliers out of the Apple playbook essentially. And yes, no matter what else Games Workshop are, they are a business and they're an aggressive, not particularly customer-friendly business. I don't think they're quite EA, but their quality control is poor. Their attention to detail is poor. Their engagement with the community is at least dishonest. They, like they'll lie, they'll hide, like on their Twitch chat, they'll hide things when they talk about things like Astartes, like stuff like that.
You're still not allowed to say Stomper in their Twitch chat.
And they sell the fucking model.
Yeah.
Like they're so unable to handle criticism that you can't talk about a Stomper on their own Twitch chat. Like, so they're a terrible business, but they make a game that I really love. So we'll leave that. I couldn't agree with. I think Scott B's nailed it. They're making a business decision. We're fucked because of it. Not fucked, but they're fucking with us because of it. Cool. We still get to play Warhammer, so I don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I do, but.
Yeah.
That's...
But at least it's you can still play at home on a 6x4, and it's fine. But just tournaments are going to be that from now
on. I agree. Joshua makes a good point. Isn't part of the problem that 40k rule set hasn't had universal appeal ever, and yet tinkering with the rule set is what happens with each edition. I think blowing it up and starting from the ground up and creating something akin to bolt action, with phases that alternate, has a much better chance of creating a good rule set than chopping and changing. Yes, but chopping and changing is again a viable business model, right, Nick? Like doing a half good job means they can do another half good job and then sell you the second half good job 3 years down the line. Yeah. Yeah, and intentionally or unintentionally, it makes different units and models better, or invalidates old models. Like, since the Primaris have come out, they keep saying, you can still use your old Marines, but you can, but they're just shit compared to the new ones. Yeah. Why would you? Anyway, I feel like that is, I think Scott B's made a good point, and I feel like it needed saying, so I wanted to say it, because I don't think you'll hear that from anywhere else, right? I think everywhere else will be like, I really respect them, and I really think that they're doing it for the best for everyone. Bollocks. Anyway, and honestly, if one more person says to me, "Yeah, they've got kill team boards," I'm like, I don't give a shit about. I don't want to play. I want to play. I will never play on anything other than the mouse mat material ever again, Nick, unless there's something that's better than that, which I can't envisage. It's definitely not cardboard boards that I interlock.
No.
That's the worst.
Cardboard just feels really cheap, doesn't it? Like, mouse mat material is incredible for rolling dice on. It just softens that bounce, gives you a nice that sound. I don't know. It's just
The only way it can get better is if I don't ever have to lean over and somehow I press a button and some articulated arm comes and then I just roll it in there, look at my opponent and then it slides back so I can continue my game. That's the pro setup that I want in the future.
Yeah. Although a better solution, so at James' workshop, James built a big dice rolling tray. So like it's almost like a craps table in Vegas. Just like this big box with like 12-inch high walls, and you roll dice in there. That is the premium dice rolling.
Well, what about all the guys that have bought one of those premium tables like that? Have you seen the premium tables you can buy like that?
I think I saw one once at one of their games days, but I didn't really properly look at it. But yeah, a nice dice rolling tray is probably the only thing better than the mouse mats.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do some like pros and cons. Yeah, let's do that. So pros. The games might be faster. Pro.
Yeah.
The game might have quicker engagements, so seem more active. The game might
so
be
like
more
castle gun like a Tau blob castle will be in trouble much earlier, so might not be as viable and therefore less boring.
Agreed. It might be more interactive because we're closer.
Yeah.
It might be more tactical because, again, being closer, it might be more about where you move other than, like, especially with the terrain interaction, which we haven't talked about. It might be more tactical.
It'll hopefully make combat armies more viable, which will make everything in general more viable. Because shooting's still going to be viable.
Always. I mean, I guess it depends how much the terrain is going to affect it. And they have made a big song and dance now of terrain, right? It's okay. Stufflin makes a good point. Negatives, it's the opposite of social distancing. We're socially closer. So mid-range guns will be in range quicker, says Scrivo. That is a positive. Yeah, that's a positive. So yeah, like it destroys it. Well, it doesn't destroy, but it mitigates the issue of long range versus medium range. I think is that a positive? I guess. What is the classic mid-range gun? Bolter, 24 inches. Yeah. More room for all your dead models on the side, Rob. That's also true. That's also true. I mean, it does. Like my biggest pet peeve about Games Workshops, apart from playing on the wrong battle boards, which isn't a pet peeve, it's a consistent loathe and hatred. It's
a phobia now.
Yeah, I mean, if I see a Realm battle board, I just start panic sweating. Like, absolutely.
Flashbacks and everything.
Yeah, just like that rattle noise goes off in your head, like being some sort of NAM veteran. I'm like, no, the noise. But the little foot in between means I get a little bit of space to put my drinks in, my dice. Like all those 6x4 bits of wood mean I've got a little lip for cards, all sorts. That's a huge positive.
I mean, that could be the only reason they've done it, because I mean, Scott said it's a business decision, and at Warhammer World, they've got all those 6x4 tables. I'm sure they don't want because we've criticised them a lot for not having space between the tables, and they might have had a look at that and thought, well, we want to do that, but we don't want to reduce the capacity of the hall. So their idea was, reduce the size of the table.
Nick,
and that
can I just follow up on Nick's idea here, because I couldn't agree with him more. What Nick's suggesting is that the company have made a global decision affecting all of their players and all of the boards that we play war games on all around the world at once, because the 50 tables they have in Warhammer World, they can't make any bigger and they can't make any more room. And so they want to fit a few more tables in at Warhammer World. Because, Nick, if you think that they're going to put a lip between two tables, you are fucking barking up the wrong tree. They are going to add an extra board and sell an extra set of tickets. So what you're saying is, for a few £1,000s more a year, they've changed the shape of global gaming. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. That's the conspiracy theory.
I can't wait to see. So positive, you can fit more players in, more tables in, more players equals more profit. I guess so. I guess that's true. Okay, let's talk about positives. I think positives. Oh no, we've talked positives. Negatives.
Yeah.
My mat isn't the right size anymore, and I'll have to do something about it. Whether that be tape
you'll have to,
or whatever it might be.
Cut it, tape it, or some other way, or build a new board. I think a negative could be that the board might just look really cramped. You know, if you got imagine if we played our orc armies against each other, like on this smaller table now. You know, I had about 150 orcs. You had 90 boys plus all your mech guns with all the grots and stuff like that around it. Like, there'd be barely any space for us to maneuver. It would just be, I'd fill my deployment zone, you'd fill your deployment zone, and then we'd slowly fill the entire board. It would look a bit cramped, potentially, just with all those models on the table.
Yeah.
So it might not look as aesthetically pleasing. Just look a bit like a big mash in the middle.
I think the aesthetics thing are a big deal for me. I know everyone keeps saying you could tape up your mat, but like just a grim line around the edge of my my hopes have always been to build a little lip around the edge of my mat so it fits nice, which is good. And it's just kind of like, it's kind of cool, right? It's kind of cool. So that would be a negative from me, having a bit of tape everywhere, just look a bit rough, but whatever. Negative, horde armies take up more space. So yeah, that's true. Negative. 300. Do you know, Nick? 347 32mm models will take up the whole table.
Really?
Yeah. So don't do that. Can no longer escape the range of 36-inch guns. That's true. We can play Warhammers for aesthetic. You can just drop another mat on top of the other mat. You could, but then surely you would just have the first mat, which was the right size mat. Is that right? Honest Wargamer mats. Let's do them, Nick. Let's get them made now. Yeah? It would be really fun if someone came up with mats and they were just like, they just like banged them out. They were like 50 quid, taking pre-orders now. They're like, Games Workshop like, we've got a 5x4 mats. And everyone was like, no, I'm specifically not going to buy it off you because you've done this. I'm going to buy it off this third group because screw you. Owen, I can print mats. We should get on it. We should bring out our own mat range. Anyway, I don't know what other negatives there are. We talked about this longer than I thought we would.
Yeah. Well, it's a big issue, isn't it?
Isn't it? Is it just me, or like have people been downplaying it?
Don't know really.
Okay, Twitch chat. You could be the arbiters.
Yeah. How big of an issue is it?
Yeah, like scale. We need a scale 1 to 10. 10 being the biggest issue it can be. 1, it's not really an issue at all. Like, where do you guys sit on it? That's my question. That's my question. So 4, 3, 6. So it's ranging around the mid. 2, 1. Doesn't care. 5. Yeah. 20% less than people make out. 3, 5, 7 to 8. Malekith seems to be bothered by it. It doesn't feel like a big an issue. There are rules regardless of board size. Is my concern. Agree with that. 2, 1. So it's just annoying. Still 40k bunny. Still going to play 6x4. It is a good thing. So sorry again. So that's one of the few it's a good things. I wonder if anyone thinks it's a good thing. Make border mats. That's what I was going to say, Tristan. I think border mats are the right decision. Double-sided mats, 40k and AOS. Let's go. I bet Games Workshop produce an AOS map for every mission. Complete your collection. Fuck off. 2 out of 3, 6 out of 7. I bet the new edition reduces the range of weapons to account for the new map size. Gorka Morka, that would be massive, because they would have to reprint all of the weapons, right?
Yeah, or they'd have to do like a big index thing with. I mean, maybe they'll do that because they're going to have to redo all the points. I don't know how they're going to release that. Is that going to be in the rule book, or is that going to be like a separate PDF that they release with all the points on? But then, if they wanted to change the range of everything, they'd have to release, like another index with all the weapons in a big list and all the ranges changes. I don't necessarily see them doing that because I think it would. I feel like it would piss a lot of people off because it would, mean their physical codex or even electronic one is now
even more worthless.
Even more out of date.
Great way to sell that app, though, Nick.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's a great way to sell that app. If it helps, people start out on their dining room table, like we all did as kids, and it's a good thing. We will be fine. Ruskies, I agree that we'll be fine. No criticisms or thoughts there. And I think actually, like I've said, we might end up with a better game out of it, which I think is a positive.
Yeah, I think another positive that Pure Evil's put in the chat that
Pure Evil, leader of the
evil
smaller
empire. Yeah, leader of the evil empire. He said that it's better for people who struggle to find a big space to play. So the smaller the table, the more accessible it is for people to set it up at home. But I wouldn't trust Pure Evil because I hear that he's got an evil plan of stealing all the outer bit of everyone's mat that they've cut off and selling them as new mats. So I think he's promoting that view just to complete his evil plan.
What happened at LVO, though? Because they must have had shit tons of mats at the end of the last LVO. What happened to all those mats? Because what, are they going to cut them all? Are they going to... do you know what? Even taping 300 mats is not like a small job. It's not like what you can do today. I'm going to accurately tape out 300 mats. Or cut 300 mats.
Yeah, I mean, I presume... Because they make the mats and sell them, right? So they'd probably just be able to. I don't know how those machines work. They might just be able to run it through the machine again, to either reprint a line on it or like cut them smaller, something like that.
Oh, so apparently resold them cheap after the LVO to the community.
Oh really?
Oh.
That's not a bit dodgy at all.
That's not okay. That's not okay. That is what's that called? Insider trading. Isn't that the name of it? Isn't it almost as if he knew?
Yeah.
Almost as if he knew. Whoever bought that off must be like, you motherfucker. Oh, but maybe he told them before he sold them. Maybe.
Yeah,
So
maybe.
we don't know. Pixie Lou, I'm new. What is a mat size? It doesn't really matter, we've discovered, unless you really want to play on. What is the cutoff? What size is the cutoff? Like a foot and a bit? What's Pure Evil going to do with thousands of little bits of foot of mouse mat material?
Well, I don't know. I'm not that evil. So he's probably got. I don't know. Maybe resell them as like the border mats for people who haven't recut their mats. I don't know. Or some sort of giant moon laser.
Pure Evil says, honestly, I'm thinking we're offering the service to trim Realm of Battle boards. We forgot about Realm of Battle boards, but then fixing the scraps into new, less usable boards. An evil Frankenmat. Dice trays. You could use them for dice trays. That's true.
Yeah.
Sew 5 together and bam, new mats. I like that because then it would look like. Have you seen also? So other 40k news. Let's just jump on. Have you seen that Fabius Bar's coming out and that they've sewn, like he's got his new armor? Just sew it like Fabius Bar man themed. Yeah, sew it.
Yeah, like Warhammer like jackets. Out of old battle mat scrap.
Yes. Or you could use it for COVID masks or body armor.
Markers.
Yeah, any of those things. So a cloak. I'm into a cloak. You need to make a bar mat style strip to cover the new dead area. I agree with that. And the new mat could have battle relevant things written on it. Yes. I think that's a really good point. Make 40k mouse mats for online gaming. Duh, that's true. Or bondage gear. Also good points. So Nick, they've also said that this week pre-order for the new Psychic Awakening book. So I think that they're basically going to do a Psychic Awakening book every week. Is going to be the plan.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
What's the next one got in?
Chaos, isn't it?
You know, Fabius Bile and Dark Eldar or something like that.
Something like
I
that.
don't think they've had one, have they?
No. So.
But the only one I care about is Pariah, which I think is going to be last, because that's all the new Necron shears, isn't it?
Well, a good point that came up at the weekend was that they don't even have to release that in if the Psychic Awakening stuff is going to work in new 40k.
Yeah.
They don't even have to release that book before they release new 40k. They could release it after. I know that would be weird.
Yeah, it would feel a bit weird, but yeah, I imagine their plan all along was have it out before the new edition, but obviously the virus has affected all that. But yeah, if it's all compatible, but do we believe them that it's all compatible? I don't know whether there's going to be like a whole host of FAQs to fix the stuff that isn't compatible for the new edition.
I don't know about you, but this chat hasn't made me feel good. Like, I'm at the end of this, like, do you know what? It's big business decision. Fuck them. Also, everyone's in on it and is selling mats to people at reduced prices. Like, I'm like, I feel very uncomfortable about this.
I think maybe it's just because we in general are quite cynical. So yeah.
No, we just want the best. Yeah,
that's true. We do want the best, but
yeah, we just want the best for you guys at home, for us, for all of us. I want to walk into a plump, luscious gaming environment with dice. Why haven't I got drink holders like stuck onto the edge of my table where I'm gaming? What's that about?
We should make clip-on ones.
We should. I think they make them anyway, but yeah,
like these little clip things. Just have like an attach a drink holder to it that can clamp onto a table.
And then just we should do that and then brand them ourselves. I also
cups.
Yeah, what else do we want at a table? Smaller boards apparently, cup holders. What else do I want? So because when I go to an event and they give me 2 free dice and some gummy bears, I'm like, holy shit, you guys are pushing the boat out. Like this is next level. Terrain that is also a snack bowl.
Or terrain that is also a dice rolling tower.
Also good. I think terrain that's a snack bowl with snacks in. I want to arrive and I want to be like, roll a dice. I'm going to just charge you with my Marines near the Dorito Tower. Like, thank you. And then take some chips out of that and then dump it into the crater of like sour cream dip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And have like a chocolate fountain as well for dessert in later rounds.
Yep. Yeah, snack tray, a dice tray that's tortillas. That would be fun. I want waiters and waitresses to bring me drinks. I also want that. Air conditioning, yes. I'd like there to be a live chinchilla at every table. Yes, if you roll a 6, you get a double portion. A tablet built in with direct ordering for snacks that are brought to your table. Yeah.
Yes.
What snack would you want, Nick?
Chocolate raisins. I love chocolate
raisins.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess the thing about Doritos as well is they're quite powdery. You get all the bits on your hands that go on your models. So you don't want to do that. You probably want something that's more slick, a more slick material. Yeah. Okay. I think I'd like them to serve more fruit at an event, but we're now getting off topic. We have talked for the day. We have done a stream streak. We have discussed only tables for some reason, and it's been a delight. Nick?
Oh, edible dice. Irish mind saw edible dice. That could be a thing.
Imagine how intimidated you'd be if you saw someone roll 2 dice. It was a double 1. They looked you in the eye. They picked them up and they just ate them, and you'd be like, "Fuck."
That guy's hard. Oh my god.
That would be great. Yeah, I don't encourage eating dice, FYI. I'd like to point that out. Only eat your misses first. That would be great. You roll them. You're like, okay, miss these, eat them up. Edible meat dice for Sons of Behemoth. Oh, God. That's... yeah, more water at events so you can stay hydrated. I think that should be true as well. There should be a water... Have you seen The Waterboy, the film with Adam Sandler?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want a water boy at every event now.
Yeah.
Who just
Well, when the Honest Wargamer gets big enough to sponsor a water boy for every event, then I think that'll be the thing.
that
You get to a tournament. Oh, here's the Honest Wargamer water boy.
yeah. Maybe we could make some sort of jacket that we could sell to events and give. Okay, right, we're gonna go. We're gonna go. But it's been a pleasure, Nick. Thanks so much for coming on the show and talking to me today.
No worries. Thank you for having me on.
Can't
Good
wait
to see
to
everyone in
talk-
chat.
I can't wait to talk to you again on Thursday. Talk some 4DK.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't. Also, thank everyone for joining us live. We're live every day midday, 12 o'clock if you want to join us. Also in the mornings, I play some Age of Sigmar on Tabletop Simulator if you're interested. I'll be back later on with Nathan and James to talk Age of Sigmar. We're talking about all the new releases, Nick. So zero new releases. So
there's been a lot of stuff announced, but not actually officially released, right? Like all the elf stuff and the giants and things like that. It's a bit
all
weird,
of that,
isn't it?
yeah. Well, I think they're just going to get all the 40k stuff out and then Age of Sigmar later.
Yeah.
But yeah, tomorrow we got the Falcon and Val on, which will be fun. And we've also got a great show on Thursday with Smorgan actually. Where he wants to talk about parity in gaming, so I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
join us all for that. Also, Nick, quick bit of 40k news. Have you heard at the weekend we're going to find out what's inside the box for
Oh yes.
the starter box?
Will it be that blurry picture that we've seen
Well, the in focus picture we've seen.
eons ago? Yeah.
Probably. I think
Yeah,
it's going to be
most
those. Yeah. Okay. You guys are great. Thanks for joining us. Nick, thank you. Thank you to everyone who's on Patreon. If you listen to the podcast, stay hydrated. Thank you for joining us live. Join us live all the time. Love you loads. Have a great day. And goodbye.
Bye, dudes.
It's good.